Have you ever had a really bad day at work and thought about quitting? Maybe your boss was unreasonable. Maybe you got passed over for a promotion. Maybe you just felt undervalued. And then you went home. You looked at your bills, your rent, your car payment, your student loans, and you realized something that made you feel stuck. You can't quit. Not really. Not without another job lined up. Because you need next month's paycheck. And the month after that. That feeling? That's not an accident. Your job doesn't pay you based on how valuable you are. It pays you based on how much it takes to keep you from leaving. It's calibrated perfectly. Just enough that quitting feels too risky. Just enough that you'll tolerate things you don't like. Just enough to keep you quiet. Today, I want to show you how this works. Not to make you angry, not to tell you to quit your job, but to help you see the mechanism so clearly that you understand why you feel trapped, and more importantly, what you can actually do about it. Let me tell you about Jordan. He's 31 years old. He lives in Charlotte, North Carolina. He works in corporate sales for a software company. He makes $67,000 a year, plus commission that usually adds another $8,000 to $10,000 annually. So let's say he makes about $75,000 total. That's a decent salary, better than most people his age. He should feel comfortable, right? Here's what Jordan's actual life looks like. After federal taxes, state taxes, and everything else gets taken out, Jordan brings home about $4,650 a month. His rent for a one-bedroom apartment is $1,450. His car payment is $385 for a Honda Accord he bought 2 years ago. Insurance is $155. He's got a student loans from his business degree, about $320 a month. Before we go any further, that's already $2,310 just for a place to live, a car, and his education debt. Now add groceries at $400, utilities at $120. His phone bill is $85, internet is $65. Health insurance through work still costs him $190 a month, even with the company contribution. He's got a gym membership at $55, because sitting at a desk all day means he needs to work out. Streaming services add up to about $45. We're now at $3,270 in fixed monthly expenses. Jordan has $1,380 left. But wait, we haven't added gas for his commute, about $180. We haven't added his 401k contribution, which is $280 a month, because the company matches 4%. We haven't counted the times he goes out with coworkers, because that's part of the job culture, or new work clothes, or the birthday gifts for friends, or the occasional car maintenance. By the end of most months, Jordan has maybe $300 left, sometimes less. Sometimes he has to put things on his credit card. Jordan is doing fine. He's employed, he's responsible, he pays his bills. But here's the thing, he has no freedom. Now, let's talk about what happens when Jordan has a bad week at work. Last month, his manager changed his territory without asking him, just announced it in a meeting. Jordan had spent 2 years building relationships in his old territory. Now he's starting over. He was frustrated. Actually, he was angry. He thought about looking for another job. He even updated his LinkedIn. He started browsing job listings. And then he stopped. Because here's what he realized. If he quits without another job lined up, he loses his health insurance immediately. That's a big deal. If he needs to see a doctor or gets in an accident, he's looking at thousands of dollars out of pocket. His rent is due on the 1st of every month, no matter what, $1,450. If he misses it, he's in breach of his lease. His car payment doesn't care if he's employed, $385 on the 15th every month. If he misses payments, they repossess the car. And without a car in Charlotte, he can't get to job interviews or a new job anyway. His student loans? There's some flexibility there, but not much, and missed payments hurt his credit score, which he'll need if he wants to rent a new place or finance anything in the future. So Jordan did the math. He has maybe $2,000 in savings. That covers 1 month of his essential expenses if he's very careful, maybe 6 weeks if he's lucky. 6 weeks to find a new job, interview, get an offer, and start. That's cutting it close. Really close. And if it takes 2 months, he's in trouble. So Jordan stayed. He didn't quit. He accepted the territory change. He smiled in the meeting. He said it was fine. This is what I mean when I say your job pays you just enough to keep you quiet. Jordan makes $75,000 a year, and he can't afford to be unemployed for more than 6 weeks. That's not freedom. That's dependency. Here's how companies think about salary. They're not trying to pay you fairly. They're trying to pay you efficiently. Efficiently means what's the minimum we can pay to keep someone with your skills and experience from leaving. They do market research. They know what other companies pay for your role. They know what it costs to live in your city. They know your financial obligations probably are. Student loans, rent, car payment. They know, and they calibrate your salary to sit just above your financial obligations, high enough that you can live, not high enough that you can easily leave. Let me show you this with Jordan's numbers. Jordan's essential annual expenses are about $39,240. That's rent, car, loans, groceries, insurance, utilities, the basics. His take-home pay is about $55,800 annually. That's a gap of $16,560. But that $16,560 isn't freedom money. It goes to gas, clothes, going out, replacing things that break, medical copays, and trying to save a little. So Jordan's actual financial cushion, the amount he could survive on without income, is maybe $2,000 to $3,000 on a good year. His company pays him enough that he's not desperate, but not enough that he's secure. He's in what I call the dependency zone, making enough to live month to month, but not enough to have real options. And this isn't unique to Jordan. This is most people. Most salaries are designed this way. You're paid enough to not quit out of desperation, but not enough to quit out of choice. That's the golden handcuffs. They're not literal, they're financial, but they work just as well.
So why doesn't Jordan see this more clearly? Why doesn't he feel outraged? Because the system is designed to feel normal, even fair. There's a psychological concept called relative deprivation. We don't compare our situation to some absolute standard of freedom or fairness. We compare it to the people around us. Jordan's coworkers make similar money. They live similar lives. They have similar constraints. So it feels normal. Everyone is in the same boat. When Jordan complains about work, his friends say things like, "That's just how jobs are," or "At least you have a stable income," or "Nobody loves their job." And they're right, in a way. This is normal. But normal doesn't mean it's the only option. It just means it's common. There's also something called the sunk cost fallacy. Jordan has invested years building his career. He has a title, a reputation, a track record. Starting over somewhere else feels like throwing that away. So he stays, even when he's unhappy, because leaving feels like admitting those years were wasted. And then there's simple fear, the fear of change, the fear of the unknown, the fear of being unemployed. These are powerful emotions, and they keep people in situations they would leave if they felt they had the financial buffer to take that risk. Companies don't have to force you to stay. Your own financial situation does that for them. Now, let's talk about what this costs Jordan over time. He's 31 now. Let's say he stays in this pattern for the next 25 years until he's 56. His salary will probably grow. Maybe he'll make $95,000 by his 40s, maybe $110,000 by his 50s if he gets promoted. But his expenses will grow too. If he gets married, buys a house, has kids, his financial obligations will expand. The dependency zone just shifts to higher numbers. At 56, Jordan might be making $110,000 and still living paycheck to paycheck, still unable to quit, still tolerating things at work he doesn't like because he needs the income. He'll have spent 25 years trading his time and tolerating frustration for a salary that kept him just comfortable enough not to leave. And here's what he won't have: freedom. The ability to say no, the ability to take a sabbatical, the ability to start something of his own, the ability to retire early if he wants. He'll have a decent 401k if he was disciplined, maybe $600,000 by his late 50s, but that's still not enough to stop working. That's retirement money for later, not freedom money for now. The long-term cost isn't just financial, it's psychological. It's spending decades in a state of quiet dependency, where you can't fully speak your mind or make bold choices because you need that paycheck. So what can you actually do about this? The answer isn't to quit your job tomorrow. That's not realistic for most people, and it doesn't solve the underlying problem. The solution is to build what I call exit capital, money that creates options, money that means you don't need any single job. Here's what that looks like practically. If Jordan took 20% of his take-home pay, which is about $930 a month, and invested it consistently, in 5 years he'd have roughly $65,000, assuming a 7% return. That's more than a year of his essential expenses. That changes everything. With a year of expenses saved, Jordan can quit a job he hates without another one lined up. He can negotiate harder because walking away is a real option, not a bluff. He can take a career risk because failure doesn't mean immediate financial collapse. This requires sacrifice. Jordan would have to live on $3,720 a month instead of $4,650. That's tight. That means keeping his current apartment instead of upgrading, driving his current car longer, being more intentional about spending. But it's the difference between career freedom and career dependency. The financially intelligent don't optimize for the biggest paycheck. They optimize for the smallest gap between income and expenses, and they invest the difference. Because they understand that wealth isn't about how much you make, it's about how much you keep and how much freedom that buys you. People who build real financial independence often make less than their peers, but they have more saved, and savings are what create options. Your job pays you just enough to keep you showing up, not out of malice, just out of economic efficiency. They've calculated what it takes to keep you, and they pay you that amount, plus a little extra so you feel valued, but not so much that you feel free. If you want to change this dynamic, you can't do it by asking for raises alone. Raises help, but they don't solve dependency. They just move you to a higher-paying version of the same trap. The only way out is to build a financial buffer large enough that any single job becomes optional. That doesn't mean you quit. It means you could quit if you needed to. And that psychological shift changes everything. You start speaking up more. You negotiate better. You take smarter risks because you're not afraid of losing the job. You're financially insulated from that fear. That's what real financial security looks like. Not a big salary, but a big gap between what you earn and what you need. If this changed how you see your own job and your own salary, consider subscribing. I break down these patterns every day. Clearly, honestly, no hype, just reality. Thanks for watching.